Welcome friends to another r/prorevenge video. Our first story of the day is by To See You Low. Fate helped me get back at my brother. My brother, 23 male, we're twins, is so mean. He's constantly doing messed up stuff to me, 23-year-old female, but the worst thing happened 5 years ago. I got my first boyfriend when I was 18 and a senior in high school. I know we were young, but I really loved him. We'd been dating for 10 months when my brother randomly decided, for literally no reason at all, to make up a story about how he caught me cheating and tell it to my boyfriend. He planned it all out, he came up with details, he made it sound real. And because he's such a scarily good liar and a master manipulator, my boyfriend believed him. No matter what I said or did to prove it wasn't true, he believed my brother over me. My brother kept up with this act the entire time and refused to admit he was lying. At one point, I thought I'd finally gotten my boyfriend to believe me, but then he broke up with me a few months later and confessed it was because he still was convinced I'd cheated on him, and he couldn't move past it. He said, "The worst part is that you won't just tell me the truth." And not to sound dramatic, but that still haunts me. I want to cry every time I think about it, and I still miss him to this day. Also, I think it's important to note that my brother has never once apologized. He's so insanely mean that he just thinks it's funny. I even asked him once if he'd consider hitting my ex up and telling him the truth for my peace of mind, and he just laughed at me. I never got over what my brother did, and I always told myself I was gonna do the exact same thing to him one day. He's dated several girls since high school, but he'd never been serious enough about any of them for me to consider tricking them. I knew it wouldn't hurt him like he hurt me if I just tricked one of his flings or something, but he finally got his first serious girlfriend last year, and after thinking about it for a long time, I decided I was gonna do it. We live in different places now, so I had to do it all online. I used a different method than he did. I contacted his girlfriend pretending to be the girl he'd been cheating with. I made up an elaborate detailed story like he did to me and even photoshopped proof and stuff. I made my story even more believable than he made his. And exactly like he did to me, I went as far as denying it even to him, because I knew he might use my texts and calls to prove to his girlfriend that it isn't true. He knew I was behind it though, solely because the girl I made up doesn't exist and there's no one else that would do this, but I kept denying it. His girlfriend wholeheartedly believed me, and my brother kept calling and texting me and begging me to give it up, even though I still wouldn't admit it was me. He was manipulating me and arguing that it's different because I was younger when he did it to me and my relationship wasn't serious. But my relationship was serious, and like I said, I still miss my ex. My brother really messed me up. I have empathy though. He doesn't, and I was starting to feel bad for his girlfriend because she's innocent. I was kind of regretting everything and thinking that maybe I should tell his girlfriend the truth, for her sake, not his. But then his girlfriend asked me a question which led to her admitting that she's been suspicious of him for a long time. So I pried a little bit and encouraged her to look through his phone. She told me she couldn't because she didn't know the passcode and he wouldn't give her access to it. I guessed a few passcodes I thought it could be and gave them to her under the guise of seeing it once but not sure which one I'd seen. That was kind of dumb, but I couldn't think of anything else to say and she didn't question it. She got in because it ended up being the same one he's had since 2012 when our dad got us iPhones and he made us use the same passcode. Idiot. Anyway, lo and behold, it turns out my brother actually cheated on her and my setup was the reason she found out. He's been talking to and hooking up with multiple girls for pretty much the entirety of their relationship. I'm not surprised because he's a terrible person and cheating seems right up his alley, but I'm shocked at the same time. I literally can't believe things worked out this perfectly. It feels like a dream or something. The universe loves me. I hate to revel in his girlfriend's misery, but I was feeling guilty about her being collateral damage, so I feel like this is the best possible outcome. My lie ended up being the truth. Well, not exactly, but you know what I mean. So I didn't scar his girlfriend or leave her with permanent damage for no reason. All my interference did was speed up the process of the truth coming to light. In fact, my brother may have been able to hide his cheating forever, if not for me. He probably would have just manipulated his girlfriend and/or refused to give her phone access forever. She hasn't broken up with him, and I'm honestly not sure if she will. I don't know how relevant that is, but it attests to how manipulative he is. He screws people over all the time, but somehow always gets his way anyway. It's honestly infuriating and scary. Anyway, I'm still not going to admit to my brother that I'm behind it all, because there's no point. That would just get me in deeper trouble. I got a comment on my original post that said, "Deny till you die, baby." And that's exactly what I'm planning on doing. Life's crazy. Well, here's one of the rare circumstances where a person would pretend about hooking up with their sibling. That said, if your partner asked to see your phone, fully unlocked and whatnot just to look through it, would you personally be okay with that? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by Acceptable Meal 5610, The Great Arby's Avalanche. In my high school years, I had a typical high school job of fast food worker at Arby's. Most of the job was very easy and surprisingly fun, unless there was a real craphead manager that happened to be working that day. Well, this is a story about revenge on a boss/manager. Our store had a real gem female manager that was very out and open about her hating men. She was a lesbian, nothing wrong with that, and made it very clear to all males they absolutely did not matter to her. She would give females extra breaks, allow them to be late, give them free food, etc. The males, on the other hand, were treated like actual piles of dog doo-doo. The manager would leave us alone during busy times and sit in her car. She would take insane amounts of smoke breaks and whine and complain at us when she'd come back and things would be all backed up. Eventually, several months of her garbage attitude and clear hatred got the best of me, and one day I had had enough and I hatched a plan. Arby's at that time used to take call-ahead orders on large workplace or party orders. People would call in and say they needed X amount of sandwiches for a luncheon. These call-in orders didn't need verification in any way. Anyone could call these in. I heard a different manager one time explain to someone that if someone were to call in a $300 order and ditch the order, he'd probably get fired for allowing that much beef to get wasted. The roast beef product at Arby's is treated like gold. One day, I knew this manager was working with me, and I executed my plan. About halfway through the shift, I used the bathroom and texted a friend that was willing to help me. I simply texted him, "It's go time." My buddy then calls our store and puts in an order for 200 roast beef sandwiches, which at that time would be about $300 to $350. This didn't affect me whatsoever because I was on drive-thru that day and didn't need to make food. My manager immediately gets pissed that she had to make all this food and starts the process. After about an hour, she gets finished and goes on a tirade about how stupid everyone at that store is. Over the next 2 hours, it was next to impossible for me to hold in my laughter, as I could tell she was growing very angry and worried that the order was never getting picked up. I started noticing her making phone calls to other managers and upper management people about what the heck to do with 200 roast beef sandwiches. Eventually, it was time for me to clock out and go home. So I did. Over the next several times I worked, I noticed I was not with this idiot manager anymore. In fact, I never saw her ever again. She either quit or was fired. I guess I'll never know. I think more than anything, beyond even just the revenge, I think it's just disappointing to have some kind of policy where you don't verify these orders and then you still make the employees responsible for it. Like, yeah, it's a big order and that's a lot of money wasted, but it's not the employee's fault that the person didn't show up. This next story is by shit, a second negative review for the same experience. Over 3 years ago, I made an appointment with a local car detailing business, which I think might be all owned and operated by one person. The guy went MIA about 48 hours prior to the appointment. Never called me back to confirm we were on, never showed up. Turns out he was detailing my sister's friend's car at the exact time he was supposed to show up. I left a 1-star Yelp review and moved on with my life. All this time later, literally almost 4 years later, I get an email from Yelp that the business responded to my review. I go look, and they're going through all the reviews and commenting. So I guess they just became aware Yelp reviews exist, and there were 3 reviews total. Mine, another 1-star, and a 5-star. On both the 1-star reviews, which laid out very different scenarios but did both mention lack of communication, they left comments essentially stating, "There's no way this is true because we don't operate that way, and we always call back." So I logged in as my secondary account and left a second crappy review for the service I never received all that time ago. Screw that guy, just own your crap, bro. That's all, just wanted to get that off my chest. If there was any possible way to respond to the response, it would be the perfect thing to say, "Well, you're saying you always call back and you're always timely and whatnot, but took you 4 years to respond to this review." Our next story is by the Prairie. If you can't learn to park it, maybe you shouldn't drive it. So we just got back from a lovely vacation in the mountains. We stayed at a 7-night Saturday to Saturday condo rental with 24 units, but only 21 parking spaces in the garage under it. All others have to park in a lot down the street. This would be fine if the weather was nicer. While there the first night, we meet another family at the pool with a daughter the same age as ours, and made quick vacation friends with them. Ate with them a few times and let our daughters play almost every night. Someone else staying in the building is the too proud owner of a brand new GMC Yukon Denali XL, still with the drive-off tag, so you can guess where we are going. Day 2, we did our thing that night. We get back, 1 spot left. But no, entitled Denali person is parked in 2 spots. Day 3, they're in a different spot, so we know they moved, but still 2 spots. So we left a truly nice note and then placed it with the other 2 notes under their windshield wiper. Not sure how nice they were. Day 4, he's parked long ways across 4 spots. What a Richard or Karen. At the same time, our new friends also arrived back to the condo, also upset about this person's parking. So we decided to teach Denali a lesson. We let the families out, then I back in behind them as close as I could get. Barely enough room for me to squeeze out. Our new buddy pulls in front of them as close as possible, and he has to go out through the hatch. Day 5 to 7, we all use Uber. We left early this morning. I had to pull out to pack up and had a very rude note on my window, and all I could do was laugh. Hopefully Denali learned a lesson, though I doubt it. I just love the fact that this entitled person thinks they can get away with anything and acting all bad and mean, disregarding people's genuine letters of concern, putting a damper on people's vacation time, and then when they go and act up and people don't tolerate it and give them a little bit of their own medicine, they're probably moping around and being all, "Why are these people picking on me? Why does everybody have to be against me?" And of course, I'm gonna leave a rude note on this person's windshield. After everything that Richard and or Karen did, the only purpose that note they left for OP has is a free piece of toilet paper. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.